before we hit record today, I guess I was essentially thanking you guys because we didn't have our own QRF. We didn't have enough people to QRF ourselves. So our QRF was always an Army or Marine Corps unit. It was always you guys coming to help us when we got into trouble. And, so when you hear those explosions or you hear those big gunfights happen or you hear casualties happening, you guys would know it'd be you coming to get us.
Yeah. I know you remember Charlie Med, they would put out announcements over the intercom, we need A positive blood. Yep. And everybody, whatever it was, it didn't matter who it was. Like sometimes I donated blood to, an Iraqi fighter. I didn't know it at the time, but you go to give blood. And it was blood transfusion, and that happened every day.
Yeah.
You just come across the loudspeakers. And
they'd have the mass casualty calls for blood. Yeah, we'd send guys up too.
Yeah.
So your op tempo is 8 hours on, 8 hours QRF, 8 hours prep for the next mission.
Yeah.
Somewhere, at no time did I say sleep. At no time did I say PT. At no time did I say relax and call home.
No, we didn't do PT. I mean, PT was every day, but, in the winter months, I think it would slow down a little bit, but not really much. Usually after we go out on a QRF mission, you have a couple hours of downtime, but you're just prepping for the next patrol. With the chow hall, if you're lucky. Luckily, we had good cooks. They were always there for us. I did have one situation where I just got off a patrol, and we were nasty. I've been covered in dirt, blood, and sweat, and I had a major that was standing at the door that said we couldn't come in like that. And I was like, bro, we're going back out in like 30 minutes. Like, you're going to let my guys eat. I got into it with a major. I think I called Captain Lansong or Captain Graham at the time, and I was like, this is what's going on. He was like, I got it.
Yeah.
Took care of that. But
yeah, they were generally pretty friendly to the guys that were out getting after it. That's kind of the vibe that I got because, I had one of my CB guys who we got mortared and we got like a big water tank blown up, and he went out and like within 24 hours, actually it was probably within 12 hours, he had us a new water tank. It got like, I don't know, it's probably like 1,000-gallon water tank. He got it back and got a new one and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, Chief, really appreciate you getting that thing done. He goes, hey, sir, as long as I just don't want no more boom boom in the camp.
Yeah.
That's what he told me. I said, cool.
I didn't even know what a CB was until we were there. And they helped us out a lot. Yeah. I mean, they would come in and build bunks for us and stuff. I mean, we started sleeping on cots, and all of a sudden they were building us like bunk beds and stuff, and hooking up AC units, and definitely shout out to those guys.
So as this is all going on, do you have, how much of your thought process is about like, hey, what progress are we making? What's the overall plan here? Were you getting briefed on that stuff? Or were you more thinking day to day, this is what we're doing?
It was day to day. I mean, we had target packages every night at that point. I didn't think we were making any progress. It didn't seem like we were. Definitely didn't seem like we were. If anything, the enemy was getting smarter. Genius tactics. I got to give them credit for that.
What were some of the things that impressed you?
So their pressure plate, the way they detonated pressure plates, there would be a house in a courtyard, and there'd be a street, a tiny little canal road, and there'd be a garden on the other side. We found one where they had a garden hose. They had somehow got the positive and negative wire through the hose, and we drove over it, and that triggered the IED. Or where they would take the side of the sidewalk out, and they would encase a 155 round in like styrofoam and paint it to look like the sidewalk and put it back. Or just simple things like they'd send just cardboard just laying in the street, positive and negative wire. We just run over that, detonate it. And then when we got the red and blue system, the jamming systems, they figured out that we could, because they were using cell phones or the two-way radios to detonate them. They figured out we were jamming them. So they would have kids out in the street with remote control cars, and they would try to see which vehicle had the jammers on it. And got to give them credit for that. I mean, they're smart.
Yeah, one of the things that impressed me was they would burn a tire in the street. That would melt the tar. And so one person would burn a tire, and then someone else would go and dig the tar out. And then someone else would go dig a hole. Yeah. And then someone else would put a bomb in the hole, and then someone else would rig it back up, and then someone else would fill the hole back in, and then someone else would put the tar back. And then once they put the tar back on, this is what impressed me, was it was like they would then put dust on it and sweep it and then unsweep it, and so you wouldn't be able to see it. It just looked like the freaking road. Yeah. Because it's not like the roads are there, beautiful pavement anyways, but it would just, the effort that they would go through over time to make this happen and do it in a clandestine way where it's like, oh, this is their neighborhood. Yeah.
There's trash and debris everywhere. I remember one crazy thing. We had the financier of the IED cell. Like, I don't know where we got the intel from. We knew it was him. We had arrested this dude 3 times. And every time he gets out, we didn't have anything to keep him locked up for a while. And one of our lieutenants got the idea, we're going to use the propaganda against them. So we snatched him up, and we would take him to a corner of Taʻmīm and get out, take pictures of him, with a cell phone, with Americans, and take him to the other corner and do that, take pictures. The next day, we found him, hands and feet tied up behind his back, forehead split open, and they had sewn a 155 round in his back. We were like, yeah, that's him, but also there's wires coming out of his back. So savages. I mean, absolute savages.
As time is going on day to day, what's your mentality? At first you're in Kuwait, you're fired up, like, we're going to make this happen. We want to go to war. You get there, your guys are taking casualties out of the gate. You're losing guys out of the gate. Does it become at some point? I always feel like things just become kind of a blur of just like, it was interesting when I know you mentioned you listened to the podcast with General McFarland. It wasn't until I did that podcast that I realized the timeline. In my mind, it was all these kind of separate events that had happened. It seemed in my mind weeks, if not months apart, but they were literally 2-3 days apart. But every operation was so massive and so much moving parts that it seemed like this one singular event and then another singular event. But in reality, it's like, no, we were just, that was 3 days later. That was 2 days later. Yeah. Did you get into like a blur mindset? What was going on in your head?
Absolutely. So, like they all ran together. We'd have some high profile missions, but we'd just get, one night, like Tuesday night, we'd go get this guy. And those were cool. But then there was always something that popped off with those things that would, that's how you remember it. Like so-and-so got shot, so-and-so got blown up. That's how you remember it. And it wasn't until, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he talked about sensory deprivation tanks. And there one opened up in Columbus, Georgia, and I went and did that. And it was like the second or third time. And I just remember laying there, and like stuff just pops up, like missions that pop up, or like certain memories that they're just buried in the back of my head. And I think that's where a lot of PTSD stems from that people don't realize.
Yeah.
You can't talk about stuff if it all blurs together. I used to joke that everything we did was legit and legal, but we were always under investigation. And they sent in Army CID or whatever, come down to investigate us, and I'd be like, which mission? Like which one are you talking about? And it was hard, to remember, like, we did this last night, we did this the night before, and, so.
Yeah, that there's no doubt of the amount of scrutiny we were all under in terms of like rules of engagement and, collateral damage. Like there was investigations. My guys had to sign a sworn shooter statement after every operation, every they killed. Yep. I don't know if you guys had to do that, but
absolutely.
It was like, and at the time, my guys were like, "Oh, what's this for?" And I said, "Hey, listen, in the future, someone's going to dig into this and be like, well, why'd you kill this guy? Yep. Look, here's why we killed this guy. Yeah. Here's what was seen. Here's why the shot was taken." And so it was a good move. Yeah. But at the time, it feels like, it feels like unwanted scrutiny.
It feels like you're getting it from both ends.
But one of the best things I learned from the 506 over on the other side of Corregidor was like the attitude of like, come investigate. Like if you think something is wrong, please come down here and investigate. And I said that over and over again. Oh, you think something's going on? Please come and investigate. Send people down here. We'll take them out. You want to go see what it's like?
Come with us.
Come on out. Come and get it. Like you want to see what's going on here? You want to see why people are getting shot? Why the enemy is getting shot? Why our kill count's so high? Come down here, bring a notebook, and bring some body armor, because that's what's going to happen.
No. It never went out.